So if you are looking for a challenge, an ultra marathon is 100% something that you should pursue if you love the trails, if you love mountains, if you love pushing yourself really hard and achieving things most people do not. This video will help you get there. If you're transitioning from never having run an ultra marathon to running one, or you're just new to ultra marathons and you're still trying to figure it out. Ultra marathons are something that you can gain some information from, some lessons learned from people, but wisdom definitely drives everything when it comes to ultra marathons. And especially because we're all kind of an experiment of one. We all kind of experience ultra marathons in our own way. There are some things that happen to all of us, but some of us are more susceptible to certain things. So you're going to learn over time. In this video, I'm going to be going over kind of a comprehensive list of things. I've taken note, I've written down so I don't forget them, so I keep them in order and try to get through this as quickly as possible. But these are things that I've learned, things that I would 100% tell all of my coaching clients and everyone on YouTube. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So we're going to break this up into choosing your first race, training foundations, nutrition and hydration, race day, pacing and strategy, and gear logistics and mental approach in the recovery part of this, and then general mindset for like your first 5 ultras. So go ahead and get into it right now. And I got a lot of my stuff around me right now, so a little bit of show and tell as I go through this. So choosing your first ultra. People always say you should do a 50K, should you do a 50K, and a marathon, then 50K, then 100K. That's not always necessary. It just depends on your training and how much running experience you have. So if you want to start with 50K, you're going to want to go maybe towards an easier one. Don't go to the most difficult 50K, but that can happen. I chose a very difficult 50 miler as my first ultra marathon. I learned a ton in it. It's really just ultimately about to continue moving forward in these things. So you can pick one that you think is doable. You know, if you're not really experienced, I would not go pick the hardest one. It's just going to be way more difficult. But if that's what you're looking for, that's what the ultra marathons are going to be. Ultras are difficult to begin with. Pick a course matching your training. So if you live in a very flat area and you can only train on flat, I wouldn't go pick the most mountainous 50K unless that's what you want to do, at least as your first. Once you kind of get a gist of it, running the 50K won't seem so far after you've done it. And this is something you can only experience by doing it. The first time you ran a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon or marathon, you've probably experienced this. It's the same in ultras. It's just what you're used to and the wisdom you build in running these things. Once you run 100 milers, once you run 100 mile, it's still far, but it's not as far as somebody who's never run that distance before. You want to research aid station spacing, if it's an out and back, if it's an interlupal, and that just helps you with logistics. Drop bags adds to the complexity. So if you're doing a point to point, this adds a little bit more to complexity. So if you're running something that's going to take you from morning to night to morning again, you're going to want to think about it getting dark, getting cold. If you're on a mountain, is it going to be cold on top of the mountain? You need to take into consideration what would be in your drop bag, jackets, gloves, just things like that. You really got to think all of that through. Weather patterns, if it's going to be raining, in the afternoon, later in the race, you want to put rain jackets. If they don't make you carry one in your pack, you're probably going to want to make sure you have one in your bag. Gels, if you carry a certain gel that you have to have, make sure that you have enough gels for the first part of the race and then, space them out through the rest of the aid stations and drop bags and things like that. That's why I always tell people to learn to figure out what the race is going to have and then learn to eat off the tables as much as possible. You have to carry less and you have to worry about less things to put in your drop bag. Training foundations. So when you're getting into your training, this is a very broad thing because we all start from different points. There's people who've been running a long time, have a really good running base, and there's people that have kind of dabbled in the road racing and they're just wanting to jump right into ultra marathon. So this is kind of a general way of thinking about this. You probably want to train for a minimum of 12 weeks to 24 weeks You want to build a consistent base. You're going to want to run 4 to 6 times a week, mostly easy, adding in some speed work. Long runs, back-to-back runs are super important. And again, this is just generally, you want to aim for at least 30 to 60 miles during peak week and carry that for a certain amount of time. You'll be able to know on your long runs how good a shape you are, because again, if you're running these easy runs, you'll kind of figure out what your forever pace is, and that's the pace that you feel like you can run forever. You're going to be implementing a lot of run-walk in ultras, especially at the beginning. Well, pretty much through your whole career if you're doing it the smart way. So you really want to kind of dial that in. That's something you're going to dial in over time. Back-to-back runs are really, really important. You want to prioritize time on your feet. I've said this on this channel for a long time. It really helps to be able to spend as much time during a day on your feet. You got a desk job, get a standing desk, take tons of walks during a day. A lot of the steps per day that are non-exercise steps are really important with helping maintain weight and just spending time on your feet, because that's going to be the most difficult part. Your feet are going to hurt, especially when you first get into ultras. Your feet are going to hurt because you're not used to spending 8 to 12 to 24 hours to 30 hours on your feet, much less running the entire time. So that's something you got to kind of get used to. You want to try to pick maybe some shorter trail runs to get into to kind of get a feel what it's like being on the trails. It's different than the road. So that would be good during the training time. Back-to-back long runs. I already said that. Run on similar terrain, hills, technical sections, downhills in practice, hiking, steep climbs, depending on the race. Now, if you train in the flat and you're running a mountain race, you're going to have to find a way to try to train in a very similar way. If not, you're going to have to get on one of these incline trainers and get some climbing in, or it's going to be really, really, really rough for you. If you live in a mountainous area at altitude, you're super lucky, especially if you're running mountainous high terrain. But if you live in the mountains and you're used to having a lot of change, and then you go run a flat race, that gets really boring. It can be very difficult on your legs too. I've run a very flat 100-miler, and I've never been so sore after that race. The 100-miler, the Sino Canal, I've never been as sore as I was after that race. And any mountain race, anything, it definitely nailed these same muscle groups over and over and over again. So a lot of stuff to take into consideration then. Include strength training 2 to 3 times a week. You want to bulletproof your body. You got to be strong. A strong core, strong legs, strong back. You don't want to have weak parts of your body. It could just be body weight stuff. So I have a small, I don't know if you can see back here, a little weight rack. I do some free weights. I got a bench right here. I do a lot of push-ups, planks, wall sits, things like that, just to try to keep my body fit. I'm not trying to gain all the beach muscles anymore, but I do want to be strong. I don't want to have any weak points in my core. So that's definitely a good thing. You want to work on your glutes, core, quad, hips, doing lunges, squats, deadlifts. I wouldn't mess too much with deadlifts. If you're somebody who does it all the time, I wouldn't do it. I think this is more apt to injury. But if you do lightweight, that's okay. Planks are super good. Yoga is really good from just like a mindfulness and relaxing. You're going to need to do that on the trail. You're going to have to learn how to relax. Sometimes you want to panic. Cross training, so biking, swimming, hiking, aerobic fitness, any cross training, stuff like that. It's going to be really good for keeping you in shape, your whole body, not just running. You don't want to get all these imbalances. The 80-20 rule. So 80% of your runs should be easy. 20 should be higher intensity, speed, hill work, things like that. I've been doing a ton of that lately, and I feel fantastic. It just makes you feel more in shape, get used to the turnover, keeps you loose. Again, like I said in the last video, running slow for a long time and doing it without any speed work just makes you slow, and it makes you tight, and it makes it you're less in shape. It really does. It's good for base building, but it doesn't help you with the higher end and just pushing up your VO2 max, which just helps you across the board. You want to build your long runs gradually. You want to never increase them really more than 10%. Again, this depends on how in shape you are. If you're somebody who runs all the time and then you're just kind of you take off a couple weeks, yes, you don't have to go back 10% every long run. So if you run, 10 miles is your long run, 10% of that would be your next one as you build through there. And if you have a running plan, this stuff will all be done for you. I have running plans. They're down in the description. Do your long run in the exact way you would do your race. So you can put your pack on, load your pack up. Put my pack. Oh, here it is. You want to get used to the pack that works for you. So you don't want to figure out whether a pack's going to rub when you clip it on. You put on the pack. Oh, let's go ahead and get this thing on. You start to feel, is this area rubbing? Does it rub anywhere under your armpits when you're swinging your arms? You want to check all of that. Get used to that. And not just an empty pack. Like I have an empty pack right now. Load the pack with what you're going to have in there. Run, see how it feels. If you're able to tighten, adjust as you're moving. This is really important because I've seen people make themselves bleed by not ever really testing their pack and understanding what it would be like running in very hot temperatures with a lot of sweat and salt. Changes things also. So if you have the ability to run in very hot weather and get very salty and sweaty and in the same shirt with a loaded pack, see what that does for you. In the cold, same thing. Test these things out. That way when you have a pack that you fall in love with, you can stick with that. I did the same pack for like 10 years. I've just now recently added this pack over the last year, gotten used to it, gotten dialed in, and I trust it. I will wear it, and I've run hundreds in this now. So you just want to make sure that your gear works. And a lot of that does come from doing races because sometimes it's really hard to incorporate. Oh. Yeah, it just get to be hard to test everything to that extent, but do the best you can. And with all the equipment, whether it's shorts, shirts, socks, shoes, you don't want to go into a race not really knowing how these things are going to affect you. Practice running with a headlamp. Headlamps are good. I've switched to this Ultra Spire waist lamp. I like this. Goes around your waist like a belt. Got a battery pack in the back. You can unscrew, plug it in, charge it as you need. If you have a battery backup, something like this Ridge, which I love also. This is what the package looks like. Love this thing. Not super heavy. I can charge my phone like 2-3 times on this. It can be used for other. It's got USB-C. You can also plug things into it, Type-C. Very good, and it snaps onto the back of your phone if you need it, but it's very good to carry if you need to charge things. I like the waist lamp because I don't like having something in my head, but eventually I'm going to get a nice headlamp again because there are downsides to having the waist lamp just being in your way of your belt area, the shadows, but I love how this lays the shadows on the ground so you actually get a better view of the 3 dimensions of roots and rocks and things like that. So again, this is stuff you have play with over time to just get used to that, to whatever the equipment is. You got to dial it in. It's really a preference for you. So again, take all of this for what it's worth. Know that it's just trial and error for a lot of these things. You'll figure out what's good for you. So you want to practice with that. You want to simulate races so that when you get out there, it's not the first time you've used your headlamp or waist lamp and running at night on the trail. That's not really where you want to figure that out. Because again, if you're running at night, you've probably been running for 12 hours and you're tired, and that's not the time to troubleshoot. You're going to have to troubleshoot, but you shouldn't force yourself to. You should be worried about your light. You should be worrying about things like hydration, nutrition, fatigue, stuff like that, not just gear. You don't want to be putzing with gear. Nutrition and hydration. This is the number one reason for DNFs. This is the number one reason that takes people out of races, that makes your races miserable. So you want to train your gut. You got to get used to taking in carbs, all the carbs, all the things. I love Precision Fuel, these gels right here. They have worked with me for years now, so I highly suggest them, not because I get anything because you buy them, because I don't, but they have sent me these things in the past. They supply me with these for races, and the reason I use them is not because they're free, it's because they work. I love them. Really good, not a strong taste, not super sticky. I don't feel like I have to drink a gallon of water to get them down. I also love these Huma chia gels. These taste really good, a little bit sweeter tasting, but a little bit more liquidy. They work with me. I use those, but you want to be able to take those in and know how many you can take in an hour. Rule of thumb is you're going to want to take in 200 to 400 calories an hour, mostly carbs, roughly 30 to 90 grams or 1 to 3 ounces per hour, depending on your tolerance of carbs. Again, carbs are something that if you take too many, that can mess you up. If you don't take enough, it's going to mess you up. But dialing in typically 30 to 90 grams is a good area. And the more you practice, the more your gut gets used to it. In coaching, I always tell people to practice this, especially if you're coming from road races into ultra marathons and you're not used to fueling a lot. You're going to have to fuel from before the race, all during the beginning of the race in ultra marathons. You're not going to get away with running 10, 15, 20, 30 miles without taking in food. So you better practice taking in food. That is a non-negotiable. If you want to be successful, you're going to have to learn to eat and take in fuel from the very beginning of the race, or you're going to pay for it. You're going to bonk. I learned this year after year, after race for a long time. And I just had to give in and say, fine, even when I'm not hungry, I'm going to have to start doing it. So it's not something I would try to fight and be like, I'm fine. I can run. Yeah, I can go run 19, 20 miles in a training run and not fuel and feel like, well, that's fine. I mean, you can't do that in a race. You can't do that in a 50 mile or a 100 miler. It just will not work. Test your gels, your chews, your bars, all the things. I usually these are supplemental. These are the things I use to keep my calories up a little bit, but most of the food I take in is at aid stations where I take in potatoes, pierogies, peanut butter and jellies, bananas, things like that. These are pickle juice. Not too many of these. I do carry these occasionally when I eat them in a pinch, but pickle juice, they offer pickles. Those are my main staple going through aid stations. So supplement between aid stations with the gels. And then when you get to an aid station, consume what you can there, walk away with it. So you can eat it as you walk, let things settle. It's a game changer. Eating is a game changer from the beginning. I'm telling you, trust me on this. Start drinking before you think you need it. You don't want to overdo drinking. You're going to have to dial in your carbs. Your electrolytes. That is something, you could sip on electrolyte mixes, put them in your bottles. You can use tabs. You could just use salt at the aid stations if they have potato, dip it in some salt, pickle juice, things like that. But again, this all dependent on how much of a salty sweater you are. Some people are not as salty. I think I'm probably medium to higher sweater. I sweat a lot, but I'm not a very salty sweater. But if it's super hot out, you're going to need more. If it's super cold, you're not going to need as much. Again, you got to learn to dial this stuff in. My telltale signs are my hands start to swell when I need electrolytes. I'm not absorbing the water. Stomach sloshes, tells me I need to absorb water more. So then I take in some electrolytes and kind of just mess with that all throughout the day. The last 100 mile I did, I think I dialed it in well, but I ended up peeing like every 5 minutes for like the last 20 miles. Still trying to figure out what that was. I wasn't over drinking, but I definitely took in enough electrolytes. So I think my body was trying to pull water from my body, liquids from my body to expel the sodium. It's a science. It's an art. And we're all an experiment of one. So you're going to have to kind of figure this out. But no, it is very important. It will take you out of a race if you don't address it, and you can't just bulldoze your way through it. Fuel early and often, same with hydration. Just make sure you stay on top of it. Don't overdo it. But I would suggest eating 300 to 500 calories before the race starts, and then continue every hour. Don't skip. Just take something in. It will help you. Carb loading pre-race. there's lots of schools of thought of this, but I think it's good to watch what you eat before a race. Don't eat a bunch of junk. Don't eat a bunch of stuff that's going to be hard to digest. You're going to need those carbs, things like that. And I love bacon in races. If they have bacon, I'm always taking in bacon. You get the good fats, proteins, and sodium. I love bacon before the race, but again, that's me. When you go into an aid station, I would usually try to finish off my liquids. Again, this really dependent upon how hot it is, how cold it is. If it's a very hot day and you're going into an aid station, I would typically try to polish off my liquids and then refill. That way, I'm not falling behind. Again, I'm not telling you to overhydrate, but it's a good rule of thumb to try to just keep your hydration up, especially on very, very hot days. Overcast, humid days are sneaky. They've snuck up on me. I've had issues where I had to go to the, let's say the hospital, but, go get IVs in. I guess it's one of those, local places you go to, not Kid Med. I'm an adult, but you know what I'm saying. You go to it, you're like, I am peeing blood. And they're like, that's not good. And they put you to test. But I've had that on a 19-mile training run. It was a very overcast, humid day, didn't drink enough, and got very dehydrated with no symptoms. So it can sneak up on you. Stay on top of it. I won't give you the targets for hydration because I think that's overdoing it. How many milliliters and ounces and stuff like that per hour. You got to dial this in. You should know after training. You should be able to know, depending on the weather, what you need to be taking in. So on race day pacing and strategy. Start slower than you think you should. A lot of times we'll say start slow and go slower. You got a long day ahead of you. Don't be dumb because you feel good. You're going to be pumped up. You're going to be amped up. You're going to feel good. Your training went well, and you're going to go into this. You're going to be like, I can hold this pace forever, and you can't. Everyone does this with the 24-hour 100-miler. They think that everyone can just break that, and that's always their goal, even if they didn't train for that goal, and they end up blowing up. Instead of just going, you know what, I've only trained for a 25 to 26-hour 100. Can you do it? Yes, you can push hard. But I would not go out and overdo it. Steady movement, moving well throughout the entire race and the thirds of the race at the beginning, middle, and end is what gets you there. Not sprinting and running too hard at the beginning, because then you'll just blow up and slow way down. Don't be too aggressive. Don't be stupid in the first half, and don't be a wimp in the second of the race. This is what I tell myself. I try to be smart at the beginning, and I try not to be a wimp at the end, because you can be. You can start to whine in your brain. Everything hurts. I'm really tired. I don't want to push hard because that hurts. My feet hurt. Everything hurts. Get over it. Push hard. You want to hike the steep hills aggressively. You want to keep moving and run the downhills efficiently. Don't blow your legs up super early. This depends on the race. Think of the race in thirds. So the first part, you run with your brain, you run discipline, you run smart. The second part of it, you want to be steady, push steady, stay hydrated, keep fueling. And then the last third of the race, you run with your heart. You push hard. You put in the work. The hay's in the barn. Just keep pushing. Stay steady. Don't be a wimp, and keep pushing. Again, this is something I got to tell myself all the time. Break it up into segments. Beginning, it's just like getting to the 30K mark, 50K mark, or marathon, 30K. Each moment that in a race you've been before. So like 5K, 10K, half marathon distance. Like your brain will automatically want to get to those distances. But at the end, it could be, I'm going to get to that tree. I need to get to the next aid station. I need to get to that light. It really does become a battle. I need to take 20 more steps, jog for 30 steps, 20 more walking steps. Like it gets to break it down like that. So you'll figure that out. You'll be so tired where that's the goal. So, but just keep moving forward. Relentless forward progress is what you need to keep doing. Be efficient at the aid station. So polishing things off, eating at the aid station, and walking away with food so that you're not wasting time. Camping at aid stations eats up so much time. The last 100 I did, I think I spent an hour and a half to 2 hours at the aid station. They were both turns because it was basically a third, 3 loops. No, they weren't necessarily loops, but it was 3 loops. And I spent 2 times like an hour at the aid station. It was needed. It was raining and I had to clean my feet up and get nutrition in. But I lost 2 hours and it cost me a sub 2,400. I could have just been moved a little bit more efficient. I mean, I could have spent an hour less. So it will add up quickly. So being efficient in and out, expect there are going to be lows in the race. Ultras are like 90% mental. Once you've done the work, it's mental. You have to want it. You're going to have to want to not stop. You're going to have to want to finish this race. You're going to have to know that it's going to hurt and be okay with that. When you're in a slump, know that it will pass. Typically with me, if I feel bad, getting through feeling bad is eating and just continuing to move forward. Eating and continuing to move forward. Eating usually fixes everything. So just know there's going to be those times. Walk, reset. Don't get into a negative self-talk. If you have a pacer, they should be able to help you walk you through this. There will be times where you're hurting and you're thinking you're going to get cut. Like you're not going to make the cutoff. And your brain just starts to make up these scenarios. And then you're like, well, I might as well quit. I can't do it. You got to know that that's going to happen because I have a lot of negative self-talk at points and I battle with it. And so I know that they're coming and I know that my body and my brain are lying. Push through it, know what's going to happen and prepare for it. Goal, gear and logistics. So invest in good hydration vests like I showed you that fell on the ground back there. Test it. Good headlamp. Whether it has batteries, I've used a battery-powered one for a lot of years. If you can get one that can recharge, the waist lamp one, really invest in good ones. It's going to waterproof and test them. Prepare your feet. You want to have blister kits, tape, good socks, good shoes. Your sock and shoe combo matters, so you test that stuff out. You don't want to figure that out on a race day because blisters will take you out. I think blisters are probably the number one thing that's what hurts the most for me in races is in the blisters. I had some pretty good blisters in some of these races where I just tightened my shoes up and said, I'll deal with it later. So you want to have the tape kits, socks, lube your feet if you need to. People have a lot of schools of thought. I think I put deodorant on my feet last time. I can't remember. What was I putting on? Like everyone has all of these different strategies for figuring this stuff out. Hand sanitizer. I put hand sanitizer on my last. It was supposed to help dry up wet feet in the rains and things. So start researching, Googling, looking in some of these troubleshooting things for keeping your feet healthy. I wouldn't say I'm a foot health expert when it comes to races. I don't have a lot of bad issues with blisters, but I've had the bottoms of the pads of my feet fall off after races, and it's not fun. So prepare all that stuff. Navigation. So watch, you can download races onto it. You can carry map, laminate it, whatever you need to do, put it in your pack. If you need to, again, this depends on the course. If it's a really remote point to point, it may help. Don't just blindly follow others. I know that helps sometimes if you're a newbie and you're like, well, this person knows what they're doing. You follow them and they've run a mile and a half down the wrong trail. You're responsible for you. It will only be your fault if you don't do it. Know the course, figure it out, research beforehand. Test everything before going in. Carry navigation, notes, so wristband with like notes, aid station distances, cutoffs, fuel reminders, and just to kind of help reduce the decision fatigue. You will get tired. You will get to a point where you can't think about pace. You can't think about cutoffs. Can't do the math. You will get there. It will happen. On my watch last race, I did put in a beep that would tell me when to walk, when to run, because I wanted to hit a certain pace. And I know if I left it up to me, I would just start to make excuses why I don't need to run. So I would do that if you can. It does get annoying, and I have the ability, and I did test my watch on figuring out how to silence it or change the ratio of walk to run. And I did that. So I was able to kind of change it on the fly. Figuring out how to do that while my watch is running is super key, because you don't want to be messing with your watch and then mess it up and stop it and get going, because that will bother you. It bothers me because I'm a numbers person. And basically in my mind, if I didn't track it, it didn't count. So reduce the amount of things that can go wrong and decision fatigue. It will help a ton. Your pacer, if you have pacers and people and crew, they should be able to help you with that. But when you're out on the, between aid stations at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're not going to be there with you sometimes. Learn how to troubleshoot this stuff on your own by leaving notes, leaving things that help you not make poor decisions. Mental health and the recovery. So find ways to stay mentally occupied in the later stages. So you can, call someone, have music, your pacer, have them be able to talk you through things. My pacers the last 40 miles were key. They helped push me. They helped make the decision when to walk and run, when I didn't want to use my watch ratio anymore. Basically they were the rabbit and I was chasing them, and it kept me moving. I passed 40 people from mile, I think, 90 to 100. And to me, that's fantastic, because that was the time period I really wanted to slow down, and everyone wanted to slow down. But at that point, I stayed steady, and it really did help. Learn to have fun. People over-index on ultras. There are people that are super competitive, and I know, to me, I've probably over-indexed on the chill vibes. I'm pushing more into taking it more serious, as in, I want to race somewhat. I'm not ever going to win a race, but I do want to push a little bit more and try to extract from myself a little bit better performances than still trying to go, I'm just about chilling and having a good time as an excuse to not push hard. They're going to hurt, but this last 100 I did was a complete reset on how I approach ultras, and it was the most successful ultra I had. And I love that feeling, and I want to push more towards that. I want to have fun, because that keeps everything. If you're not in the top 10, there's no reason to stress yourself out on these things. People over-index on all of the gear and the pacing and the nutrition to the number and aid station, figuring out the aid station cutoffs and where they want to be in their pace for the entire 100 mile. That stuff is super stressful. If you're racing it, probably good to think about those things. But if you're not, you don't need to over-index on all that stuff. Stay calm, especially during the race. Learn how to troubleshoot on the fly, and before the race, keep the stress down, keep the cortisol levels down. Believe me, there's no reason to overstress on these things. And this comes from somebody who does it, and I've learned over time. Ultras deliver massive highs and lows, and it's a huge achievement. It's a huge accomplishment. It's one of the hugest things you can do, to me, as a physical feat, as a human, that no one else cares about. It's the funniest thing that we will do this. We will go through the ultimate challenge on a weekend and come to work Monday, and no one cares. You tell them you ran 100 miles, they just look at you like, what is wrong with you? It's not something, it's not like you said, I won the gold medal in the 200 meters in the Olympics. Everyone's like, wow, that's really cool. People think something's wrong with you when you go run 100 milers. So it's just funny how much effort we put into something that is really an internal challenge. And that's what makes ultra so good. We're all out there for it. We're like-minded people that want to do hard stuff. Visualize pushing through the hard points, and just focus on finishing, staying steady through the race. You can get a coach, you can join a running group, you can join, we have Motivation Theory running on Strava. It's a group where you can kind of bounce things off people. Some people utilize that more than others. It really just helps to have someone to ask questions, and that's why I join a community, whether it's a running group or having friends who run ultras. I coach, and a lot of that comes down to just being able, someone could sit with me on the phone or on FaceTime and just really ask all of these questions and really help them get squared away, whether it's from training, it's prep, gear, race strategy, those type of things is where I come to play when it comes into coaching, because it's nice to have someone to ask all of these things instead of figuring it out on your own. You need to respect the distance. So for the general mindset, you want to respect the distance, no matter how many times you've completed it. I've DNF'd a 50 miler before on a race that I've finished because I hurt my knee, and it happens. You got to respect it. It's a long time to be doing something, and a lot of things can go wrong. That's why, you can have everything go right. It just takes one thing to go wrong to DNF in a race, to have something happen. Listen to your body. and just adjust from there. You'll learn over time. Progress gradually. I know watching these documentaries, these ultramarathon race documentaries, is super inspiring. And it's like, I need to do all of these huge races. And I know that's driven a lot of people into ultras. You can do smaller, local, regional races that are less cost, less stress getting to, less logistics, that you can go practice and do these things. You don't have to start off with Leadville. Not that you can, but like these huge pillar giant races that you have to go to. I know it sounds cooler to tell people, but do you just want to do something that sounds cool, or you want to have a long career in ultra running and build this up the correct way? There's ways of thriving in ultras, and supporting the local smaller races is a great way of doing it. You become friends with a lot of the local people. You become friends with the race directors. You can find these niche, really cool races that exist. I love the Yeti races. I love athletic equation races, devil dog races in Virginia and around this area. They're a lot of fun, great community, and you could spend a whole career of ultras just running those races. And I've done that myself. I looked to run Western States one day. That's been one of my goal races since I started running ultra marathons 12 years ago. There's so much to learn in this and become a student of. You could spend a whole lifetime and never be good to go, because there's always going to be something that's going to happen that you need to adjust to. Oh, and one more thing. Buy rubber gloves for putting on lube. That helps you from having to go wash your hands. All right, that is my comprehensive guide, really high level. I have tons of videos on this channel that go in depth on gear and things like that you can go find. They'll probably be linked below. Hopefully YouTube algorithm will suggest my other videos that you can watch. But this is just kind of a kickoff, overarching advice on what to do in an ultra marathon. I hope this was helpful. If you have more questions, you can type them in the comments below. Again, I offer coaching, training plans, all of that stuff. It's all in the description below. Thanks for watching. I'm going to go finish my coffee. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.